much for joining us this evening. And for the benefit of the rest of the audience who are with us, we have Mr. Ananth Nag, Senior Regional Vice President at Zscaler. So thank you so much. Pleasure to have you with us. To begin with, in terms of, how does this zero trust security model change the game for your organization? If you could elaborate on that.
Karima, pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate this opportunity. Let me qualify your question. You're asking how does it impact enterprises? The question, correct? Right?
Yes.
So if you look at the organizations in the last decade, Karima, one of the things that happens with most organizations is organizations are moving towards a distributed structure. What do I mean by distributed is every organization or an enterprise is dependent on people who are working for them, but not within the environment of the organization. You can take new age organizations, you can take banks, you can take IT services, any of the industries that you look at, while they have their own employees, they're also dependent on employees as well as organizations outside their perimeter. Point number one, which means that every enterprise has become more distributed than what they were in the last several years.
Right.
Which means that enterprises have got distributed. Now, with the onset of the last 24, 30 months, which is COVID, the reality is work from anywhere is something that will not change anymore. Since it'll only accelerate into the future because the talent war will make it obvious that there's no other choice but to hire people from where they're available rather than getting those people into a confined location. So locations will also change. It means that employees will be distributed into the future. If we go back a decade and if you look at the way applications of the digital nature of an organization is also changing. And this change has led to applications also becoming distributed. Now we are truly looking at an absolutely distributed environment, both from an enterprise application standpoint, as well as from users and your employees standpoint. Now, this distribution that you see eliminates the perimeter that was there in the last perimeter that has been built in an enterprise. When the perimeter goes away, what you need is you can't trust anyone. Anyone can come and log into an enterprise from anywhere, and that leads to the concept of zero trust. Because you can't trust anyone, you can't trust anybody, you can't give access till the time you validate that user. And hence the concept of zero trust becomes very, very critical in the new age. Now, if you add 5G to this entire mix, it means that the reality is you have to have a thought process on zero trust. That is the implication that I see getting accelerated in the last 2 years. Very much.
Right. So we've seen, transformation. We've seen technology accelerate. We've seen, business processes become, dynamic, like with the change of every hour. Now, at, your organizational level, how are you leveraging cloud banking to create new business frontiers to, take advantage of these new opportunities that are arising?
So the question is around when you say cloud banking, we're looking at banks' perspective or from enterprises going digital and with cloud transformation that they're doing. What was the question?
If you could answer both questions, I think it would give us a wider, view.
Sure. Let me start with cloud transformation. So when I say distributed, the reality is every business today is driven by software. Which means that every organization is becoming digital. When you become digital, some of them you own, some of them you have to acquire. You own, you build, and agility becomes very, very critical. Now, when agility becomes critical, you don't want to build a data center or build something on your own. You want to lease, you want to drive on something that's more agile, which is obvious cloud. And hence, with software becoming the defining purpose of any organization, cloud being delivering agility, and availability of resources also becomes very important, which means that people will drive those digital transformation, which means that people ability will also become critical. You will get people with cloud experience, so which means that you'll start building your digital transformation on cloud because ability is very very critical. So every organization, be it manufacturing, be it banks, be it financial services, pharma, every industry that is going through disruption, and banks always are at the forefront. And because they're at the forefront, in the last 13 months when COVID hit, banks have also started accelerating their transformation. And that transformation is what is driving the need for the thought process on zero trust.
Right, right. Now, you've mentioned that, technology is literally changing the game here, and we're looking at, we talked about zero trust, and how it's difficult to, actually trust anybody with the expanse of the, the digital expanse. Now, in terms of the security measures that you are undertaking to curb fraud and, and cyber security attacks that have become very rampant these days. So if you could talk about some of the security measures that you have implemented.
Yeah. So the concept of zero trust is very, very vital for every organization. And Zscaler is at the forefront of helping organization adopt zero trust. Zero trust is a concept and it is a journey that every organization needs to think through and need to adopt in every enterprise. So in the last 13 months, we've seen a massive transformation in the India market. If you take industry after industry, uh, three of the large IT services organizations depend on Zscaler for their zero trust. Four of the six large banks depend on Zscaler for their journey on zero trust. Uh, Eight of the 11 large conglomerates have started their zero trust journey with Zscaler. You look at the five, six of the top 10 pharma companies uh, rely on Zscaler to drive their zero trust transformation. This is early part of our journey, but all of these organizations that I just mentioned have challenges that I just covered a few months back.
Right.
Minutes back, is enterprises are getting very, very distributed. Because of that distribution, they have embarked on their zero trust journey with Zscaler.
Right. In terms of the major challenges that you foresee in the cybersecurity space in the coming years, what probably could be the biggest challenges that that you foresee in the coming times?
So, Garima, if you add the mix that I just spoke about, which is enterprises being distributed with 5G coming in, it just makes every mobile device that we're talking about so much more empowered. When they get empowered, you don't confine a user to work from a specific location, which means that they start to get more and more distributed. When 5G comes in, the architectures of the current environment, which has been something that has been built for the last 20, 30 years, those architectures served extremely well in the pre-COVID era. Those were architectures that were needed, that evolved over the last 30 years. In the last 24, 30 months post-COVID, the challenges are as these get distributed, the applications will also get distributed substantially. They're just starting now. It's a very early part of the journey that we're seeing. So
Right.
these applications will continue to accelerate and get distributed. When I say distributed, they will go hyper cloud, they will be on hyperscalers. And when they start getting on hyperscalers, there will be some part of the environment will still be on in their local data centers. Now, these connectivity that you require is all today trusted at this point in time, but 5G will change all of them. When this changes, the network that you're going to use is nothing but the internet. Internet will become the transport. When internet becomes the transport, zero trust becomes very, very critical. And for cybersecurity, that is a very, very important thing that every enterprise has to think through. What is the zero trust, zero trust thought process, and start evolving now and start the journey today. That's the thing that I think will start to happen in the next several years. And some organizations are already seeing the challenge. Last 24 months, you look at every organization. Every organization has seen challenges with the way state actors, with the new malwares, with the new ransomwares that are coming in. It just is becoming more and more difficult. And because Zscaler has 150 different data centers across the globe, we are seeing samples of this every single day. We handle close to 250 billion transactions. That is almost 20 times of what Google searches that we see on a daily basis, right? And this is giving us insights about what state actors and threat actors are doing across the globe. And customers or organizations that are starting the journey with Zscaler, we protect close to 6,000 plus organizations globally, and and close to 40% of the global 2,000 we secure. And the insights that we see is very, very extensive amount of threats that organizations are seeing. And this is just continuing to increase, will continue to increase, and has been a massive uptick even in India, close to 50% higher number of ransomwares that we saw from 2021 to 2022.
Right, sir. Right. So, in terms of the future outlook that you foresee for Zscaler, how do you see yourself probably say 5 years down the line? What is the outlook that you have for the organization?
Very much from many fronts, I would love to address this. First front is with the change in the business for all verticals. Zscaler is becoming absolutely relevant. The reason I spoke about the large IT services companies that rely on Zscaler, or the large banks that rely on Zscaler, or the pharma companies, or manufacturing companies, or conglomerates, right? These are organizations that have started the early part of their journey. Right? The rest of the organizations will continue to adopt Zscaler, and Zscaler has been able to help them manage this difficult period. And the rest of the organizations really are either thinking or are already on their journey of zero trust, which means that over the next several years, all of these organizations will come on Zscaler. In the last 24 months, we've seen a 7x growth in our revenue just in India.
Okay.
Globally, we're growing at 50% year over year, and we will continue to grow at a similar clip over the next several years. We are a billion point two in revenue. We will continue to grow at a similar clip, which means that the growth will help us scale our organization, and with that will come an innovation which we will continue to do. I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. And I'm so glad, we had this conversation and we had this insight into, your vision and your organization, how it's, faring into this new, technological developments that we're seeing around us. And Mr. Nag, thank you so much. It was a pleasure interacting with you. And we'll have our team share these details with you about the Elets CyberSec event that's happening on the 11th of November in Mumbai. So thank you so much. It was pleasure interacting with you and pleasure knowing your thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Karina. The pleasure is all mine. Really appreciate it. Next time I'm in Vada, I'll surely catch up with you.
Definitely, sir. I look forward.